I missed. I got very distracted there. We were setting up the broadcasting.
Yes, sir. I very much wish for you to use your abilities to see if we are gonna be fucked in a couple of seconds. Could you please use your senescence?
This description, by the way, explains what happens the deeper you go in Flogus.
Okay, so I guess I'll use my. I pronounced it sinus.
I asked you nicely.
I was pronounced it as Sinesians.
What should I be rolling? A D100? I shall consult the Emperor's Tarot. I have to choose an object of some kind. So I will put rest my hand on the inner bulkhead of the pod and read the Emperor's Tarot for the sort of any near activity that may occur onto the pod that's maybe unforeseen. And do I have to roll a D100 for this? I know there's a table.
Willpower test.
Pardon?
I believe it's a willpower test.
Ah, and is it D100?
Mm-hmm. Well, equal to or under.
I rolled 21. And my willpower is 40.
That's a success.
Do I have to roll in success table?
Yes, by all means.
I have to find the page it's on.
Yeah!
Page 192. Here we go. So I've got a table, it says, oh, psychic rating, 1 to 3, so the psycho determines the most dangerous opposition that the subject will face. It's the psychic rating I've got to go on.
The most dangerous opposition that the subject will face.
So it's basically, I'm basically trying to read it if there's anything that's going to be dangerous that's happening to the pod that we're going down.
No, not immediately. There's no danger to the pod, but to your warp-attuned senses, it's possibly the sense that you're being swallowed into a giant endless stomach. That's what it feels like. An endless stomach of seething acid from which mutated eyes gaze blindly.
Wait a fucking minute, how long are we gonna stay in this pod?
I look to Radagath and all I say is, all I can see is we're going into the depths, that's it. Nothing of immediate danger.
Well, you are...
How far ahead does your augury pierce in time? Is it only immediate, or can it project into time itself?
Well, it's to read the Emperor's Tarot, it's to see premonition, if you will.
Premonition. Very well. You fear that is the sense you get from the warp, but visions from Sinesians are often horrific or unsettling. The warp can reveal secrets, but it never reveals them in a manner which the human mind finds comfortable, and that's in the best of circumstances. However, the hand you draw is of the hidden beast, and for a moment you catch a glimpse of disturbingly bony and slender forms sliding through the fluid, the flash of claws and the clashing of jaws. Something from the darkness, coming for the kill team.
Is it how big? I don't like that. I don't like
as
that.
As the forms in your vision slip past your perceptions, you recognize the four-armed horrors. You may have even faced them before. Gene stealers. Eyeless gene stealers.
Whatever's down here, it's not just the natural inhabitants, brothers. The Hive is upon us faster than we may think.
The Void Father's enemies will be slain either way.
They're listening for us.
They will find nothing but want.
Want in the dark.
Every Deathwatch Marine is programmed in a hallucinatorium and through basically hypnotic training with the known weaknesses and structures of myriad xenoforms, the better to fight them. It's actually encompassed in one of your traits, which allows you to critical against alien targets on a 9 or a 10. And one of the things that you understand about the debased gene stealer is that effectively its internal environment and organs are sealed, much like you yourselves are sealed within your power armor. So they can endure an astonishing variety of environments with only minimal mutation. The mutation may even explain why, in Theros' vision, they lack eyes. No natural eye could survive in these depths. However, as I said, they are composed of soft innards within an adaptive outer shell. Pierce the shell in these depths, well, it would be like breaching your power armor. You can imagine what happens next.
This mission is gonna fuck us up if there's G-Slayers down here. We can't get breaches in our power armor.
I suggest that if the enemy is listening for us, we maintain silence and in some way muffle the approach of our craft.
No worries. I imagine we are all speaking through our built-in voxcasters.
The pod itself also travels by what to us would be a highly advanced, but to what to the Imperium would be ancient technology, a form of magneto-hydrodynamic propulsion. Basically, screws and moving parts would corrode quickly in the depths. So it uses magnetic fields to basically drive the acid gel through its propulsion systems. Literally like a squid, it propels itself by, well, squirting fluid behind itself, in a manner of speaking. It's quite quiet.
For now, at least.
Rojas is typing.
If these seas are as thick as they say, brothers, then they will hear us. The thicker the sea, the easier sound will travel. We're gonna have to be quick.
All we can do
Understood.
now is wait as we descend down.
Your descent takes less than an hour. And I shall post up the final point of the intermission now.
By the throne, that's less than an hour to fuck about on this pod.
So how do we get out of this thing?
On your command, the pod will flood with acid, and then the outer hull will open.
Ah. Yes.
How close are we to our objective?
You are perhaps 100, 200 feet from actually entering the skeleton of the hull of the hive itself. This is as close as the pod can get and actually find a stable launch, if you will.
For boarding torpedoes.
Calm the fuck down.
Theros fits his force sword down to his mag clip, steadies himself, checks his equipment.
Amari does the same.
I draw both my chain swords and prepare myself.
Did I set up my cartograph?
Did I mention I have a thing against depth?
Double check everyone's seals on their armor.
Your the war spirits inside your armor, there are several, and one of them is actually responsible for, or one of them and its sub-spirits are responsible for monitoring the environmental sealing on your armor. Far more efficient and effective than an actual visual check, although often accompanied by it. All of your suits report full readiness, full environmental sealing.
I assure that particular machine spirit's gratitude from Sanguinius's sons. Let it know I'm indebted to it.
The literal question is, how much do you trust your armor? There should only ideally be one answer from an Astartes in that regard.
With my life. The armor protects just as the Emperor. Because the armor is the Emperor's blessing.
I'll leave it to Fontis to answer for me.
Everything appears good.
Thank
Your
you.
armor spirits are in order.
Thank you, brother.
Ready to move on the commander's orders.
Decompress the pod. Let us leave.
As you give the command, the servo slave at the helm responds in affirmative. And there is a bang, and your armor reports a change in the external pressure of your immediate environment. Around your feet, slowly at first, and then with rising speed, blood-coloured water begins pouring in. And as it does so, the trace impurities, dust and rust and chemicals still clinging to your armor begin to sizzle and burn, filling the compartment with vapor. The acidic water strips your armor clean outside of its sealing. Your ceramite is proof against it, but that which holds to the armor is not. And the water rises faster and faster, and it has a rainbow sheen to the surface of it almost. And it's thick. It's not like seawater. There is a distinct viscosity to it. And as the sizzling fluid finally engulfs you fully, your auto senses adjust to the darkness rapidly. And then, with a series of banging clangs, the segmented outer shell of the pod slides back, revealing the exit aperture, and it opens into darkness and wreckage.
Lord Tiberos will not be pleased. That which all my talismans have been dissolved in this acid.
Don't worry, that stuff is counted as protected by your armor.
Arvek. Theros. Go ahead
That's
and
left.
take point.
Theros starts wading out into the pulp.
I begin moving with him.
You step out of the pod and drift to the bottom several feet. Thanks to your superhuman strength and the servos of your armor, your movement is not impeded underwater. Although you have to lean somewhat against the current, you don't move like an old Earth deep-sea diver. You actually move with considerable force and purpose. Your suits emit no bubbles. You are a closed system. Even the heat vents of your armor's reactors have been treated against the corrosion, which means although you must monitor the heat buildup of your suit more carefully, you are not at risk of acid entering the reactor without battle damage.
I lift up my bolt gun and start looking through the thermal sight, the prey sight, sort of scan the area, take a quick perception check, if you don't mind. So I rolled a 7.
Impressive.
I know.
You sweep your prey sense around the area. It's linked directly to your auto sensors. And yes, this once may have been actually one of the more glorious tiers of the Hive, certainly the upper tiers. No middle Hive or under Hive would ever have looked like this while it was attacked, although by now most of it has been digested away. As you sweep your view through the chemical darkness, you see a vast twisted tendril with other stunted, almost fetal tendrils sprouting from it, slide with a faint scrape of flesh against metal from around the outside of a piece of the Hive and slide off into the darkness. Size-wise, you estimate it to have been perhaps 6 or 7 meters thick. And there is a distant sense of something vast displacing for deeper water.
Can I relay this information through to the...
Absolutely.
Yeah, I relay this through to the rest of the team, just so they see exactly what I'm seeing.
So they're just not gonna know.
Well, that may prove to be an issue of somewhat, brothers.
And would that be local sea life or
Xenos?
Local sea life from the look of it, although nothing down in Flogus can be considered natural.
And when you say hive, are you talking about like a sunken hives?
As in the Hive city itself.
Ah, okay.
Not like as in a gene stealer hive.
Interesting.
Is there any way right now, perhaps using the Auspex radar of some kind, to actually map out what the fuck we're looking at so that we can know where we are? Because right now, we're in the middle of the dark. There's 2 fuckers outside of an egg in the bottom of the acid, and we're just kind of waiting about.
Isn't that what your cartographer does?
Don't forget, you can see about 100 feet. And that's not just because of the darkness, that's actually because of the actual debris and the chemical haze. Your Auspexes also will provide aid in guiding you through the Hive and identifying areas where you really don't want to go.
No, I feel like this is a bit of an obvious question, because I feel like the answer is going to be, of course it's not. But is the Hive populated?
Could be.
Like, is it active? Is it an active Hive city, or is it a debris of a Hive city?
No, this is the corpse of a Hive city.
Ah, okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
This is a sunken ruin that has been laying here for thousands of years.
Okay, right, well this is going to be interesting.
What are the rest of the kill team doing?
I'm waiting on the commander's orders.
Aralid, you will cover us from the back. Fontes
Yes,
is
I
in
will.
front of me. Psyker, Arvek, you are leading the charge. We are moving quickly through this water, or liquid, whatever you wish to call it. Move forward.
Where are we going, Commander?
I am not sure where we're going.
No, you have the you have the approximate location of the archive within the hull that you can follow. However, once you reach the projected zone, you will have to locate the archive yourselves.
That's what your cartograph is
What is my card?
is for.
You cartograph your Auspex. It's even displayed. It can even be displayed within your heads-up display.
Alright. This is besides the roleplay point. What the fuck do I say? I can see it. I can see where we're going.
Squad deploy and move out.
Oh. Simple.
Theros starts
March
wading
towards
through
the
it.
objective.
Theros starts wading through the pulp, starts continuing to scan through his scope.
Who is... So are you all basically deploying in combat formation and heading out into the wreckage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who is using Auspexes?
I'm holding mine out, but I believe Harvek is still holding his out because I told him to. Brother,
Yeah.
arm yourself. I will try to guide us as best as I can.
Okay. I put Oh wait, my aspects and polymers.
Realize as you move that the darkness itself is something of an illusion. Some of the chemical accretions in the water, the build-up, the actual sort of deposits of chemicals, some of them actually give off sort of an eldritch glow of chemical activity. The same way that if you have something which is radioactive enough, it's actually visible at night. So the idea that everything down in the rust-coloured water is black is actually not quite true. And your auspexes are picking up pockets of radiation, chemical flows whose constituency is different from the primary of the surrounding fluid. Some of the things floating in the currents look like, to be honest, they look almost like rejected tissue from some deranged Magos biologist's lab. It's clear that that the patterns of the life down here, if it can be called life, are basically a constant whim of chemical and radioactive forces, mutative forces. The ones that you can see here resemble, I suppose you could call it a jellyfish made of transparent skin. Some of them are very small, some of them are the size of a grown man or slightly larger, but they drift, twitching in the chemical currents, feeding on the high energy content of the water.
Are they being picked up by the auspex?
Oh yes. Although they read more as concentrations of chemicals with a faint life signature than an actual life signature.
So then this set of chemicals has a likelihood of hosting life.
Yeah, it's basically life so debased by the alchemical corruption of the water that the Auspex is having trouble telling that it is actually life.
So then it would be possible to map out at least 50 meters away using the Auspex where there is potential for life and how to easily avoid it.
Yep, although there is a penalty to the Auspex's perception tests because of the nature of the water itself. The actual source of the pollution of Flogis is the fact that this is basically an industrial death world. This is hyper-pollution.
Hold on, I believe we lost him.
Oh, did we? Oh yeah, we lost Rojas. We lost him from the chat as well.
Knocked offline.
Oh dear. I hope I didn't bore him offline.
I'll be internet based.
Yeah. He's most likely on a laptop and suddenly the internet shut itself.
Do you get the kind of, the sort of aesthetic of the not aesthetic, but the sort of the atmosphere of the ocean?
Yeah, and I am not comfortable.
Bathing suits not recommended.
I have a thing against depths.
I mean, I'm scared of this.
Oh, by the way, if you want to look up one of the inspirations for one of the creatures which may be lurking down here, you may want to do a Google search for something called and it's fucking do a Google search for something called a goblin shark.
Ah, I know this thing you speak of.
I know this thing too.
It's an inspiration, it's not a direct analog. In terms of the sort of the obscurity and the scale of the interior of the Hive as you move through this shatter point in what was once its outer shell, have you ever seen, well, I suppose Dark Souls actually is quite a good example, you know, that sort of soaring architecture on architecture?
Yeah.
like buildings built on buildings kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's what this place once looked like. What stories it may once have held, though. What, secrets, what intrigues. Those who made it, those who formed it, the mechanical guts which supported it, they are all long fused into dust and bleached obscurity. Some areas of this hull, in fact, have been clearly penetrated by highly acidic flows, not cracked and shattered by the impact against the base of the acid sea, but actually melted clean through in sort of globules and curled rents.
Like a process rock.
So
we really did lose Rojas. I don't want to move on too far if he wants to participate, guys.
Yeah.
nuts.
Alright. Just a quick check. I know I told everyone what to do except for you, Fontis. Wait, no, I told you what to do. I didn't tell Rojas what to do. But what is everyone actually doing?
I'm currently waiting on point, as far as I'm aware, with Ice's character. I have my bolter out and checking through my thermal sight, and I'm just trying to keep an eye out for the big motherfucking things.
Yeah, that tentacle which slid off into the darkness, as I said, it was about 7 meters thick and left a corroded, sort of slightly radioactive slime on the ruins where it slid away. 7 meters thick, lengthwise you estimate perhaps 100, 200 foot to the tip. And then you felt something very large, but silent, moving distantly through the fluid.
Oh, you motherfucker.
It's not a true Death World experience without some horrific macrofauna. As I said, though, it looked mutated. Sprouting from the main tendril were almost fetal twitching, smaller tendrils that looked like they had. It didn't look natural, for want of a better word, even though the whole thing did not look natural. If a space wolf were here, they might be of a mind to go for a hunt.
Stop on.
After all, the distant ice planet of Fenris is rumoured to have kraken in its depths.
Hello, beastie.
Yeah, acid rodeo.
By the way, I'm sorry for the silence on my part, guys. I was hoping to give you space to role play and communicate and similar without hurrying you on.
I'm still trying to figure out what Araled and Arvek are doing.
Getting our ear.
Good man.
I'm sitting up front with Sam's
Fuck
character.
you. I mean, good dude. You're doing.
I have both my chain swords drawn.
Keep away from me. You stay up there.
What I would say to some of the people that is just for the first time, this is my second time, but the one thing I keep trying to tell myself is that only I know what my character is doing. So you kind of got to voice what your guy's doing, because no one else knows.
Yes.
Apart from you. What I found myself doing was thinking a lot of what my character was doing, but I have to keep reminding myself to say it out to other people.
It's improv acting using the cues from your fellow players, if you know what I mean. It's like creating a scene between yourselves.
Know that Tyranids are here because Saint said that they were here. We don't know what kind, but we know that there's something out here.
We know it's sound-based.
Well, we know they're blind. We know it because Saint said it was.
Yeah, I saw they were listening for us.
We're fucking arguing to each other through the Voxcom, so very little sound does actually escape. Thank goodness. Pontus, please stay between me and Arvek. I'm keeping my goddamn...
All of you, as Astartes, have undergone the most horrific training. As aspirants, you endured combat training and preparation which would be fatal elsewhere in the Imperium. What an aspirant goes through to prepare themselves for becoming Astartes would kill a scion of the Tempestus Militarum. You've trained to fight on Earth, you've trained to fight underwater, you've trained to fight in vacuum, you've trained to fight in pitch darkness, under crushing gravity, under zero gravity. You've trained to fight under choking gas, under corrosive conditions. Marines are put through, as part of their training, the most brutal conditions, and they are expected to fight in them and to excel. In a way, your training has possibly prepared you, perhaps not fully, but certainly to a degree far greater than any other combat troop, for an environment as deadly as Flogis. And beyond that, you are Astartes. You are expected to adapt, excel, succeed, and crush the foe.
Alright. But now without Rojas.
Yeah, I'm a little bit leery about going on any further without him.
Yeah, I've been hesitant as well.
Let's get you actually up to sort of the exterior of the Hive. For maybe 20 minutes, you lean into the current and march across the bottom of the wreckage bed. When I say wreckage bed, I mean wreckage bed. There is no natural seabed here. You walk upon the corpse of a Hive. It is so vast that it is effectively become the seabed. The original seabed is long crushed far beneath the wreckage of this place. It is a sagging, lethal place of radiation, highly corrosive chemicals, treacherous footing, but at the same time, lost grandeur. Were this place not destroyed by acid, it once contained the baroque glory of the upper hives of this place. And the inbred families who basically ruled these places decked out their decaying palaces and ancient holdings with imperial and mechanical splendour, the barest remains of which still surround you as you enter the Hive proper. You walk beneath its cracked outer hull. The hull is meters thick at its thinnest point, and once contained innumerable passages, cables so thick that a land raider could drive through one unimpeded. All of these hang like the disemboweled guts of some vast undersea leviathan about you, but you do eventually find your way to basically into the Hive proper, where the whole thing disappears into true darkness, drifting flakes of metal and strange squirming things in the darkness.
This map, which Hojo's cartographer is making at the moment, can we project it into our vision? Or
Yes.
Shown into our HUD.
It's a tiny bit quiet as well, chap.
The data that the location of the archive is based on very, very, very old records. So they can project it to the nearest point as to before the Hive fell into the ocean. But the structure of the Hive now, on the way there, will certainly not resemble those ancient maps. Which is why you're here.
So that thing can update the map as we walk along.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Am I picking up any sort of thermal signatures through my scope?
The water here is warm from chemical action. Nothing unusually hot, although you can hear a distant, almost like rhythmic thumping, like a distant undersea, almost like somebody's flapping a piece of leather. You know, like that kind of snap, rhythmically, distantly.
I'm sorry, I had a terrible thought. when you were describing that situation.
That mad, eh?
Just of all the places here, there's this acid ocean.
Radagast, do we know how deep we have to go into this thing?
As deep as it takes.
How much will it take?
Originally, it was estimated that the archive was about a mile inside the hull. So, very close to the surface.
But we're on a spire.
A mile? But this is a
By-
hive.
By Hive standards, within a mile of the outer hull is pretty much knocking on it.
At least to the base of the spires, brothers.
Avoid the heat. Stay quiet. Stay calm. But move fast.
I can't make the noise, it's like a... But much, much deeper and louder. In fact...
I hear drumming in the deep, brothers.
Yeah, in fact, yeah, it does sound like a drum.
Drumming in the deep.
A survival roll, minus 20, I think. For those who wish to make it.
A survival roll.
Minus 20. And if you succeed, you may have some familiarity with what might make that noise.
So what do we have to roll it on?
Survival is based on your... In this case, it's going to go off
Intelligence.
An intelligence roll, D100, okay.
All Space Marines have survival trained as base, I believe.
Yeah.
I got a roll of
Done no
70.
penalties.
No good for Theros. Who else wishes to make the roll?
I have an intelligence of 42. Do you say plus or minus 20?
Minus.
Oh, okay.
What that means is you take your stat and you take 20 off it. You then have to roll equal to or under that number. Base mechanics, adding is good, taking away is bad.
Here, I think I passed. I got a 15 and my
Ah, you did.
intelligence is 50. Yeah, so I passed that.
81.
I don't know what Havel this roll actually is. It just says minus 7 degrees of success because he's rolling differently than everyone else. Because he's a special
Says-
snowflake.
Use the sheet. That's what this program is for. You can just click on the name of your ability.
Oh yeah.
They're rolling. I got a 95, I guess.
Yeah, so the only person that passed was Ice.
Okay,
So,
Ice, what is your chapter, did you say? You're a salamander, aren't you?
Yes.
Right, okay. It's possible that you may have encountered an organism which puts you in mind of that kind of impact, but not on Nocturne. This would have been during your services in Astartes on Far-Flung Worlds. In water, there is a type of organism called a filter feeder. And filter feeders, often great mats or gelatinous things, feed by literally sucking water through bladders, or the fluid they exist in, sucking it through bladders and filtering it of food particles before the water's passed out of it. You might have studied an info scroll with information on something like this, or maybe you even served on a world which had them. But that distant thumping puts you in mind of water being sucked through chambers.
I relay that to the rest of the squad.
Filter feeders on some world grow so large that they can suck in a full-grown man.
Yes, but what use is this information? If we tap into it, it will take us to a place where there is an abundance of nutrition of sorts, and where there is that, in this depth, there is something that wants to kill us.
Is this biological, this filter feeder, or is this... Or do we not know?
We wouldn't know. The best person who would have a clue would be Arvek. And if he doesn't know, because he just knows what it is, he doesn't know details about it.
If it is a filter feeder, what will give it away is basically water currents as well as the sound. Also, filters If this thing is something like a filter, if that is what's making the noise, then basically it shouldn't actually be dangerous unless you get close. This is, of course, applying standards from the biologus, which, frankly, this ocean is likely to tear up, devour, and digest. But that rhythmic thumping puts you in mind of fluid being sucked into bladders. And it's coming from within the rent in the hull.
Marvek says that if it's what I think it is, we might want to stay away from that area, as it could be water, or rather large. Or it could be water being filtered through some large organism.
Well, now I have to jump into it like a dumbass.
Where's the sound coming from? Below us?
Within the rent below you.
And we're not to the door yet. How far away from the door?
And it's not so much a door, it's a crack. A crack with sagging cables large enough to hold land raiders.
It's coming from directly below us.
From within the hole and below.
How far away? What does the Auspex reading say, or the mapper say, on the depth of the crack?
Map says shit. Except where it may or may not go.
Here, you are about 900 feet below the surface here.
Fucking Auspex.
Are you using the Auspex?
Yeah, why the fuck not?
Oh my god.
I shouldn't have remained silent on that because it may be, assumed, but, anything to force Havel to use his Auspex. I shouldn't say that as a GM, I'm not here to force you.
I don't have an Auspex.
Not Havel, Hoja. Why am I getting your names mixed up?
Hojo said he had his Auspex out.
I was getting
Havel,
this
Jesus
whole time.
Christ.
Right, fair enough.
Get your shit together, Havel.
Come on, Juicy.
Hoja,
Come on, Pause.
from within the crack, you can detect increased water flow, movement as well, and there is that strange alchemical life signature, although the Auspex cannot identify it. The icons of identification simply come up with unknown, ? Data missing.
Who has the grenade launcher?
Haha.
I do.
Technically, you all do if you're carrying bolters. The closest... It's crazy. I actually tried making some 40k level gear for GURPS, believe it or not. And we went through all the books, basically sizing everything up, and we realised that the closest analogy to an actual Astarte scale bolt gun in the GURPS system was an automatic 20mm grenade launcher.
What? Oh, yeah.
So looking around, is there any of those chemical bubbles in this area at all? Maybe just inside the hull crack, or...?
Not where they would impede your flow, but you can detect them, yes.
Brother Erlen, amuse me for a moment. Fire a crack missile into that.
Grenade, not missile.
No missiles.
No
What
missiles.
the fuck?
Grenade.
Alright. Chuck one of your grenades into there. I am disappointed already.
I didn't bring the missile launcher.
I am disappointed. It's okay. That was just character.
Yeah.
You could have had it and I would have still been disappointed.
In all fairness, you have seen him.
Yeah. Come
Have
on,
you been
man.
waiting this long to tell him that you regret him not taking the missile launcher, brother?
Yes. I wanted an excuse to be upset, and now I have it. Chuck a grenade into that crack.
Okay.
Please.
What do I need to roll?
You're effectively firing completely blind, almost, into the darkness, so... We'll say, for story effect, let us allow a D100 roll to determine what exactly happens when the grenade enters. The lower, the more spectacular.
Wait. Hold on. We have some kind of idea because of the cartograph just showing information in the HUD, as well as
So
the
you can-
aspects pointing
You
out.
can
where
direct
there's
your grenade to a degree. So, let's see what happens. Roll a d100.
84.
Oh!
Right, the grenade sails into the darkness, and there's a distant, well, dull boom, and a sudden implosion as well. 84. Nothing horrific emerges from the hole. I'll say that. But there is no disturbance. That distant rhythmic. Well, when I say rhythmic, it's kind of rhythmic. There's a slight, almost. Yeah, it's a little. Actually, it'll be a little bit arrhythmic as well. Sorry, that's me getting massively mixed up. Whatever it is, it's not twitching to a completely standard rhythm, as in it's sort of a boom, 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 boom.
So possibly more than one.
Possibly.
And take it there was no damage from the grenade.
Not as far as you could determine. You didn't disturb some sort of hideous monster to come out and eat you all either. That's the GM saying that.
Okay, I know you want to either jump in this hole or realize we're missing something very vital and are very dumb.
No, I'm just waiting for you to
wanna
declare
go.
your actions. Although I can prompt as well, if you want me to prompt you more.
I raised my
Wanted to give you go. Basically, I know there's long silences, but I wanted to kind of give you guys space to do your own thing, to actually sort of declare your own agency. Don't forget, you can also ask me if there are things in the scene that you think would be cool or appropriate to have there. In a way, you know, role-playing groups which play together for a long time, I've seen it happen. They almost become like the GM who describes the majority of the scene, and then the players sort of take the cue and begin filling in the gaps, and it becomes like a shared storytelling, creating experience. It's really good.
It's like the chapter surf who didn't make it out of the detox room.
Exactly. I didn't include that chapter surf who made it out of the detox room, but one of the player did suggest it, and that was pretty dark and entirely appropriate for the setting, so it was written in, it was included. That's exactly what I mean, yeah.
So Theros braces against the current and lifts up his bolter. Thermal sight directly towards the crack, just waiting to see if anything comes out from the disturbance. Waiting for further orders.
Some small, fleshy, shivering things sort of squirm out of the gap, but nothing huge or horrific.
Poor fucking surf. I'm sorry. I just had to go back to thinking about that.
It's a waste of time. I look at our leader giggling into his box.
Let's just make this
Players can declare that that's out of character kind of
That
thing.
is character.
Let's just make this swift, guys. Let's go.
Advance into the crack.
With that, the kill team steps into darkness. And I'm going to leave it there, guys, because it's 5 o'clock in the morning and we lost Rojas, and by the look of it, we lost him pretty spectacularly.
Yeah.
I think is his net still bad?
I have no idea. I imagine so. With this as an example.
Okay.
He is fairly new on an army base that could be making him run somewhere.
Oh yeah, he might have been kidnapped early in the morning. Well, early in the morning UK time. Sin, you can delete this recording now and never show it again.
We're jumping into a crack in the middle of the acidic ocean here. I will always forget details. That's
Yeah, it'd be good for a reference.
That's good. That's
Oh,
good.
by the way, guys, here are some examples of filter feeders. I'm just going to give you the. If you go into Google and just type filter feeder and click images, you'll see many examples of filter feeders.
Every time you tell me to look up something, I regret it.
A flamingo!
Ah,
Some kind of cleaning device for your sink.
Yeah, that's actually what I thought you were talking about. The images that I looked from filter feeder, the fish.
Aren't like whales filter feeders as well?
Some whales are filter feeders, although... Oh yes, it is. The blue whale's a filter feeder.
Just takes in a whole bucket of water and then squishes it through its...
Strains it through the baleen in its mouth. Blue whales don't have teeth. They have baleen, which literally is a trap. Suck water in through it, catch all the krill, squirt the water out, swallow the krill. Also, corals are filter feeders as well.
So we must be the crew.
Now you're thinking like a death world.
Ah, man.
But in this case, it's likely to be a plant-style filter feeder from the thump of those bladders. I'll give you that. Actually, some of these things are fucking horrific, aren't they? So yeah, I'm sorry it was a bit shaky tonight, guys, but at least we got the session in.
This was much better than last time. Already. The bitching was at a maximum, and I enjoyed it. I will keep my legs.
I'm still getting used to the whole RP thing myself.
It's okay, man. It takes time to get into, but once you get into it, it's great fun. Well, I found anyway.
It's trying to find stuff to fill the gaps with that I find hard.
Use your imagination. Place yourself there, what it would actually be like to be in that place. And imagine some things that might be there. Inject them into the scene. You know, as a GM, I'm quite happy to allow players that kind of agency. Again, going back to the scene involving the unlucky chapter surf.
Yeah, I don't think I'm the only one that has trouble injecting stuff in or filling the gaps.
Like anything else, man. Like anything else, it takes practice.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that if you feel you want to, or you know, you feel emboldened to try, don't let me stop you. By all means.
Well, this is something on a nice little cliffhanger, at least. We have, we're on the... You might want to take a note of this, someone. We're on the edge of the... What was it, one of the bulkheads? Cracking one of the bulkheads on the Hive City.
Yeah, sheer in the outer hull.
And we're jumping into somewhere that is apparently full of life, or at least nutrients that support it.
We don't really have much option.
Mutated megafauna.
So just the last thing to do before we actually stop. Juicer, can I scope around and see if there's any other obvious entries or any other obvious ways in? Apart from
take your pick. The exterior of the hull is not intact. There can be multiple entry points if you're willing to find them.
You know, we don't have to go through here, Commander.
No, I don't know that. And we're going in there.
That GIF I posted is a filter feeder, by the way.
On your order. Then I guess we're going in. That'll be the place to leave it. There's no other place to go in. We've been ordered to go in.
The commander is in front of me, right?
You are in front of me.
No, you said next to you. Put yourself in the middle.
Alright,
And is me and Ice in front?
Rojas is between me and them, but he's gone.
Here's something for you as well. I'll leave this in your imagination.
That's pretty cool. But can it suck my dick?
Note for next session. Test monster's dick-sucking ability? No, let's not do that. Besides, it's a marine's malevolent. It's far smaller than the average Astartes genitals.
I'm going in, brothers. It will fuel me regardless.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't wail on the marine's malevolent. I have to be unbiased and unjudgmental.
Actually, no, you don't.
Fucking marine's malevolent.
Just keep wailing on me. Yeah. That's
kind of
more
mad.
compliant.
Kind of chaplain. If you imagine, instead of you see all the little perforations, make that solid metal, and the major ones as like shattered holes in the hull. Yeah, like that.
Well,
That's just a rock, this one, but yeah. Imagine something like the Titanic on the bottom of the ocean with
Yeah, exactly.
corals growing over it and stuff, but then size-wise 10 times bigger or 100
Oh,
times
far bigger than the Titanic. That filter feeder which extends its like head across the bottom. Weird as.
where is it?
The one that Havel posted
bigger.
up.
I'll post it, yeah. 10 legs or something.
Go home, nature, you're drunk. So yeah,